Hello and welcome to TVP World News. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. And we begin with the latest update from the Vatican following the passing of Pope Francis on Monday morning. Now, the Vatican has announced the Pope's funeral will take place this Saturday, April 26th at 10 a.m. local time. By decision of President Andrzej Duda, the day of Pope Francis' funeral will be a day of national mourning. Now, the passing of Pope Francis has initiated a mourning period in the Vatican and marks the beginning of an ancient tradition to select a new pontiff. The leader of the Roman Catholic Church died Monday morning at his residence in the Vatican's Casa Santa Marta at the age of 88. Now, the Vatican has released a photo of Pope Francis in his open coffin, dressed in a red robe with the papal mitre on his head and a rosary in his hand. The image was taken in the chapel of the Casa Santa Marta, Francis' residence at the Vatican. News of the Pope's passing came unexpectedly as he was present at Easter celebrations over the weekend. Just one day before his death, Pope Francis dedicated his Easter message, an annual Urbi et Orbi blessing to world peace, global disarmament, and the release of prisoners in Gaza. However, in his final months, Pope Francis' health was in severe decline. He was hospitalized for 5 weeks from February 14 for double pneumonia, which became the most serious health crisis of his 12-year papacy. On Monday evening, the Vatican released the Pope's death certificate detailing the cause of his death. The Vatican physician determined the Pope died of a stroke, resulting in irreversible cardiovascular collapse. Now, a series of EU officials are scheduled to visit the Vatican on Saturday to attend the funeral of Pope Francis. Although the top Brussels brass may brush shoulders with U.S. President Donald Trump, no formal meeting between the transatlantic institutions has been set up so far. Now, we are joined live by our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins. Angela, good evening. Well, it's going to be a week of mourning, if that's what we can say. Who can you tell us from the European Union will attend the burial of Pope Francis at the end of the week?
Yes, so we got confirmation today that European Council President Antonio Costa, as well as European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, will both be travelling to the Vatican on Saturday to attend the funeral of Pope Francis, who died on Easter Monday at roughly 7:35. We got that official confirmation at a press conference on Monday at the Berlaymont, where I'm reporting from. Let's take a listen to what European Commission Chief Spokesperson Ariana Podesta had to say regarding that tribute from the EU chief Ursula von der Leyen. Let's take a listen.
Let me begin with a message from President von der Leyen following the passing of His Holiness Pope Francis. The world mourns the passing of Pope Francis. He inspired millions far beyond the Catholic Church with his humility and his pure love for the less fortunate. Our thoughts are with all who feel this profound loss.
So what we also know is that US President Donald Trump announced yesterday that he will also be travelling to the Vatican on Saturday to attend that funeral. TVP World did ask that European Commission spokesperson whether any bilateral talks between Ursula von der Leyen and Trump have been scheduled, and they responded saying that nothing has been hammered out so far. However, they couldn't rule out that any fireside chats could occur, as Ursula von der Leyen's confirmation was only announced today. But what's important to note is that no EU official was formally invited to the inauguration of that 47th President of the United States earlier this year in Washington. Only Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was offered a personal invitation of Donald Trump. She is expected to be at the Vatican on Saturday for that funeral, and many understand Giorgia Meloni to be the interlocutor for the EU and this transatlantic ally, the US. So we'll have to wait and see how she advocates for the EU as this transatlantic trade war ratchets up, and to see if Ursula von der Leyen can hold court with that leader herself. But that's all from me. I'll send it back to you in Warsaw.
Thank you so much, Angela Skujins, and we will definitely be looking closely at this, of how it will unfold on Saturday. The iconic papal umbrella, also called the umbraculum, was opened in the Basilica of St. Nicholas on Easter Monday in Gdansk, marking a significant moment in the wake of Pope Francis's passing. The ceremonial umbrella, symbolizing a vacancy in the papal seat, will remain open until a new pope is elected. Now, the umbraculum, a yellow and red ceremonial umbrella, is a centuries-old symbol of papal authority. Traditionally used during papal processions, it is now displayed as a visible sign of the sede vacante, the period when the papal seat is vacant following the death or resignation of a pope. Gdansk's Basilica of St. Nicholas has hosted this symbolic umbrella since 1929, a gift from Pope Pius VI, who elevated the church to the status of a minor basilica. After being stored away for decades, the umbrella was rediscovered in 2019 and underwent extensive restoration due to its condition. And for now, that's all for news regarding Pope Francis's passing. Moving on now to news from Ukraine. Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia came under attack once again on Tuesday, targeted by Russian drones and missiles. The strikes resulted in casualties and dozens of injuries. Let's now cross live to our correspondent Oz Chatterjee, who is in Kyiv. Hello, Oz. So now, during rush hour in the front line city of Zaporizhzhia, Russians dropped 2 guided aerial bombs on a residential neighborhood. Reports are telling us that 1 person was killed, 15 others were wounded, including 2 children. What are some of the developments and how is this all unfolding, Oz?
That's 1 person was killed. A 69-year-old woman was killed in that attack, and that injury list has risen to 23 people injured in 2 guided aerial bomb attacks on the city of Zaporizhzhia. Now, elsewhere in Ukraine, there were also attacks, as you rightly pointed out, in Kharkiv. 14 people injured there in drone and shelling attacks across the Kharkiv region over the last 24 hours. And we also had 6 people injured in the Kherson, in the southern city of Kherson, at a funeral procession. A drone targeted a funeral procession, injuring at least 4 funeral workers there. So again, another difficult day of Russian attacks across Ukraine. Now, this comes as Ukraine continues to push to demand from Russia a 30-day ceasefire, even despite the fact that the Ukrainians reported nearly 3,000 violations of the so-called Easter Sunday ceasefire declared by Vladimir Putin. The Ukrainians say they're willing to extend the ceasefire, an unconditional ceasefire, with the Russians for 30 days. And they say they're not receiving any response from Moscow on that.
Thank you so much, Oz Chatterjee, coming to us live from Kiev for the updates. And that completes this edition of World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya, but don't go away. Do stay with us as we keep covering the story and all the developments of Pope Francis's passing.